Hey there, this is Women on the Brink. I'm your host, Chris Jeffrey, a registered acupuncturist and wellness advisor with a passion for helping women live happier and more balanced lives. When I'm away from work, I'm usually outside in nature, either walking the seawall or I'm hiking in the mountains. And like many of you, my life has been filled with moments of hardship, some that I thought I couldn't overcome and really left me questioning my own strength. But through these challenges, I discovered resilience, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm here to share not just my journey, but the lessons I've learned, and to remind you that no matter what obstacles come your way, there's always a path forward. And just to let you know, this podcast is not prescriptive, it's an offering. So please take what resonates with you and leave the rest.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm really glad you're here today. So, okay, before we get into the deep stuff, let me just say this. I'm apparently not attracting men right now. Like, none, zero. And I'm beginning to realize that there are men around me, but the issue is I'm not open to most of them. And I've honestly been wondering to myself, like, especially after the conversation I had with Kim Protopappas a couple of weeks ago here on Women on the Brink that was about online dating. Um, I'm kind of wondering if there are only emotionally unavailable men left on the earth, or did all the emotionally intelligent ones form some sort of secret underground society and they're just hiding? So today's episode is a bit vulnerable, you know. I think it's a story that a lot of women will recognize, even if your life looks nothing like mine. Because at some point, I think we've all had that moment where we look back on our past and we think, like, how on earth did I end up with him? Yeah, that moment. So I decided a few years ago to get really brave and actually look at my patterns. Like, what was I choosing and why? So today I'm taking you back to my 20s. And that was back when I thought I was just, living life and having fun, when really I was collecting data and running experiments and breaking molds and revealing patterns I wouldn't really understand until probably my midlife. But what I realized is that the wiser version of me was behind the wheel long before I even knew she existed. So back in my 20s, I definitely wouldn't describe myself as self-aware. I mean, I wasn't journaling or exploring attachment styles or doing nervous system work. I mean, I was just living. So I would say yes to the wild adventures and taking the weird, unbeaten paths and doing things that probably made not a lot of sense to other people. But for me, it made perfect sense to, my spirit. And when I look back on that, I can see that the anthropologist in me was already doing her work. She was observing and researching and collecting data, as I said, except the field site wasn't, some remote village in a foreign country. It was my own life. And so, back then there was a lot of chaos unfolding on the outside. But I think on the inside, I was kind of revealing something that I didn't really have a language for yet. I realized that there were two identities living within me. So the identity I had been conditioned to perform and the identity that was trying to emerge. And here's the part about that I understand now. I was drawn to emotionally intense, slightly chaotic men. And that wasn't because I wanted to fix them. I know this is where, self-analyzation often goes. But let's face it, I'm not running a repair shop. It was because I kept giving them the benefit of the doubt that they could meet me emotionally if they just stretch themselves a little bit, right? I had been raised to be adaptable and capable and emotionally contained. So, of course, I'm going to gravitate toward men who need some steadying. Emotional unavailable didn't feel dangerous to me. It felt familiar. I was falling for potential instead of patterns. And I saw someone who they could be if they grew, if they healed, if they matured. And so I kind of hooked into that future fantasy version of them. And that was way before I'd done my own work. So essentially, I was attracted to who I was, right? Not because I was naive or anything else like that. It's because I saw depth everywhere, because I wanted to believe that people, including myself, could rise and grow. So there she was, my inner anthropologist, trying to understand instead of protect. And she was tracing men's behaviors back to their wounds and offering empathy long after it had become, self-abandoning. And intensity, oh, that just felt like home to me. I mean, that's the way it was. So the way I see it today is that I was confusing nervous system activation for chemistry more times than I really care to admit. I wasn't choosing cheaters or chaos because men are trash. I was choosing men who matched the emotional landscape I'd been trained to navigate. And I didn't know it at the time, but it definitely, totally tracks. So fast forward to midlife, menopause, spiritual awakenings, reconnecting with my Indigenous identity, and really working through those traumas, my personal shit, all that stuff, right? Suddenly my body didn't want that chaos anymore. And, my intuition refused to take the emotional scraps that were being doled out. And my boundaries finally grew a fucking backbone. And my spirit said, no more shrinking to make other people comfortable. So it was kind of like I woke up in a life that didn't match the woman who I was becoming. And I finally asked myself the question that changed everything. What would happen if I only chose people who actually chose me back? Or, let's get real. Where the hell are the men who actually see the sparkle in me instead of being so wrapped up in their own drama that they miss my greatness? And that's really the point where everything shifted for me. And I stopped being attracted to the charmers if they didn't have values and character. And I wasn't interested in men who needed mothering. And I stopped confusing that intensity for connection. And I stopped chasing. I really wanted steadiness and reciprocity and emotional presence. So I was really looking around for a guy who is grounded and available, someone who can have uncomfortable, transparent conversations without spiraling or ghosting or withdrawing from me. So here's the real twist to all of this. I feel like my attraction has finally caught up with my worth. Because during most of my life, I felt my worth was rising. I saw that my attraction kind of stayed stuck in those old patterns I was talking about. And I kept choosing my old wounds and my old conditioning and older versions of myself. But now I'm really not magnetized by men who need the rescuing or the chasing, flattering, or external validation. I'm not turned on by inconsistency, and I'm really not seduced by game playing or scarcity or mixed messages, right? Instead, I'm drawn to men who are actually aligned with me and who match my emotional maturity and who bring depth, not drama, and men who meet me and not drain me. So I feel like my nervous system has recalibrated and my taste is evolving. And my body doesn't crave that chaos anymore. Thank God. And my heart doesn't confuse tension for that chemistry, that spark. And honestly, all of this to me is such a relief. It's about fucking time. So if you're listening and you're thinking, wow, this is this is me, please just hear this. We aren't doomed to repeat the old patterns. Pattern recognition is actually liberation. And midlife can be the reset. And it can be the moment, your conditioned identity meets the identity that's been quietly waiting inside you. And yes, I really do believe that healthy, emotionally available men do exist. They're real. They're functioning. They're not unicorns. They're out there doing their work, craving connection, and wanting partnership, just like us.
Thanks for joining. And I want you to know that this isn't just a podcast, this is a movement. So share this information with your friends and let's go, ladies.